4-year-old Gus Lamont vanished from the middle of nowhere, and no one saw or heard a thing. He was playing outside his family's remote property, a quiet patch of red earth in South Australia's Outback, when, within just half an hour, he was gone. No footprints, no sound, no trace. For weeks, hundreds searched. Police, soldiers, drones, even survival experts. Yet tonight, as new developments unfold, the mystery of little Gus has deepened. The latest update from police has changed everything, marking a somber turning point in a case that has gripped the nation. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to stay updated on the case, share it to help keep Gus's story alive, and comment below where you're watching from and what you think happened that day. Because every voice keeps the search alive. To understand how a child could simply vanish, you have to understand where this happened. Oak Park Station, a vast, isolated stretch of land about 40 kilometers south of Unta, South Australia. Endless horizons, scorched earth by day, freezing air by night. The kind of place where silence feels heavier than sound. The nearest town is nearly an hour away. Out here, there are no neighbors to call for help. No cameras watching, no quick rescue. Just a single homestead surrounded by miles of rugged scrubland and dust. It's a place built on endurance, for livestock, for workers, for families who've lived generations under a brutal sun. But even the toughest terrain hides its dangers. Hidden creeks, deep gullies, snake dens, and abandoned mine shafts, each one a silent threat in the Australian outback. And on one ordinary September afternoon, this unforgiving landscape became the center of a mystery no one can explain. It was Saturday, September 27th, 2025. A normal afternoon on Oak Park Station, until it wasn't. 4-year-old Gus Lamont was playing outside the family's homestead, climbing on a mound of dirt near the shearing sheds. The air was still, the kind of quiet only the outback knows. His grandmother, the last person to see him, remembers watching him play, his little boots kicking up the red dust. Then she went inside, just for a moment. About half an hour later, she called out for Gus to come in. No answer. She stepped outside again. The yard was empty. The wind carried nothing but silence. No movement, no sound of a child's laughter. Within minutes, panic set in. Family members began shouting his name, combing the immediate area, checking sheds, vehicles, nearby paddocks. But there was no sign of him. By the time local police arrived, daylight was fading, and with it, any chance of easy tracking. The outback night fell fast, swallowing the station in darkness. That brief half hour between daylight and dusk was all it took. A moment too short to notice. And just like that, Gus was gone. Within hours of the first call, the small community around Unta mobilized. Police units were dispatched immediately. Neighbors, station workers, and volunteers joined the search under torchlight, sweeping through the red soil in grid formation. By dawn, the operation had grown. The State Emergency Service, South Australia Police, and the Australian Defence Force deployed personnel, vehicles, and aircraft. Thermal imaging drones scanned the land from above. Mounted units and trackers fanned out through gullies and creek beds. Even cadaver dogs were brought in, just in case. For days, the search intensified. Helicopters hovered low, their shadows tracing the ground below, as infrared cameras scanned for heat signatures. On foot, volunteers endured blistering heat during the day and near-freezing temperatures at night. Officials described it as one of the largest coordinated searches in South Australia's history. Every resource, every tool, every hope poured into finding a single child. But as the days passed, nothing changed. No small footprints in the dust, no clothing, no items belonging to Gus. Not a single clue that could tell searchers where he went, or even which direction he might have taken. By the end of the first week, the operation had shifted from urgency to disbelief. How could a 4-year-old simply disappear without leaving a trace? As hours turned into days, the story of Gus Lamont's disappearance spread across Australia. News bulletins led with his photo, a smiling, blonde-haired boy in a wide-brimmed hat, and the plea from his family, "Please help bring Gus home." The Outback search became a national conversation. Parents everywhere felt the same ache, the fear of a child gone without reason. Social media flooded with prayers, theories, and questions. What happened to Gus? Did he wander off? Was he taken? Authorities extended the search radius to nearly 20 kilometers around the Oak Park property. Crews scoured every possible hazard: dams, fences, creek beds, and even old mine shafts, long forgotten by maps. Specialist divers were called in to search water tanks. Helicopters returned with new heat sensors. Nothing. Then came the heartbreak of silence. The official update from police stating there were no signs of life, no confirmed sightings, and no evidence of foul play. That single statement split the public. To some, it meant a tragic accident in harsh country. To others, it suggested something darker, something deliberately hidden. The question was no longer how far Gus might have gone. It was now who or what might have stopped him from coming back. When answers don't come fast enough, people start filling the gaps. In the weeks that followed Gus Lamont's disappearance, speculation spread, online and in the media. Some insisted he must have wandered off, overwhelmed by the vastness of the land. Others believed there had to be more to the story. Even veteran bush trackers struggled to accept the idea that a 4-year-old could vanish completely, without a footprint, a drop of clothing, or a trace of struggle. That kind of disappearance, experts said, doesn't happen naturally. But the Lamont family, despite their grief, urged restraint. Gus's parents, speaking through a police statement, pleaded with the public to stop spreading unverified theories. They said, "Our focus is to bring Gus home. Please let investigators do their job." Still, questions persisted. Why was there no trace after hundreds of searches? How could trained dogs lose his scent so close to the house? And why, weeks later, did investigators expand their interest to areas beyond Oak Park, including roads leading to nearby truck roads? Those developments hinted at the possibility of something human. A vehicle, a stranger, an abduction. But with no evidence and no suspects, police kept their statements careful and controlled. Behind closed doors, the Lamonts faced a painful reality. The longer a child remains missing in the Australian outback, the smaller the odds of survival. Yet hope, fragile as it was, refused to die. After nearly 3 weeks of silence, police held a sudden press conference, one that would reignite public attention on the Gus Lamont case. South Australia police confirmed that new evidence had surfaced, evidence found roughly 12 kilometers east of the Oak Park property, near a dry creek crossing, known locally as Dusty Creek Line. What they uncovered wasn't immediately disclosed, but sources close to the investigation described it as items of significance. Within hours, search teams were redeployed to the area. Roads were briefly sealed off. Forensic tents appeared. Then came the statement that made headlines nationwide. Detectives now believe Gus Lamont did not simply wander off. Investigators said they were examining the movements of several vehicles captured on dashcams from truckers passing through the barrier highway that afternoon. One of which, police noted, had not yet been identified. That revelation changed everything. For the first time, detectives publicly acknowledged they were looking into the possibility of human involvement, including potential abduction. Still, they stopped short of naming suspects. Police urged the public to come forward with any footage, sightings, or unusual activity seen between 2 o'clock and 5 p.m. on the day Gus went missing. The words were cautious. "We're keeping all lines of inquiry open." But the tone was different now. This was no longer a rescue. It was an investigation, and for the Lamont family, that shift meant something both terrifying and hopeful. The moment police confirmed they were treating the case as a possible abduction, the small community of Uinta fell silent. For locals, this wasn't just news. It was heartbreak reborn. Search volunteers, many of them farmers and truck drivers who'd spent days scouring the land, said they felt haunted by what they hadn't found. Some returned to the property to lay flowers at the front gate, a quiet show of solidarity with the Lamont family. But it was Gus's grandmother, the last person to see him alive, whose words struck the deepest chord. Speaking publicly for the first time, she said, "I turned my back for a few minutes. That's all. I thought I heard him laughing. Then it was quiet. Too quiet, I keep thinking, maybe he's still out there, waiting to come home." Her voice trembled, breaking mid-sentence. That brief, tearful statement went viral within hours, viewed millions of times online, reigniting empathy and outrage alike. News outlets across Australia replayed her words, asking how something like this could happen in a place so isolated, so still. And as the clip spread, so did the questions. Had someone been watching the property? Could a passing driver have stopped, unseen, on that quiet outback road? Each possibility drew the nation deeper into the mystery. And each word from Gus's grandmother reminded everyone what was truly at stake. Not just answers, but a little boy's life. As the official investigation slowed, online communities began to take matters into their own hands. True crime forums, social media groups, and Reddit threads dedicated to the Gus Lamont disappearance exploded with new theories, some helpful, others wildly speculative. Armchair detectives dissected satellite images of Oak Park Station. They overlaid timelines, matched weather data, even examined truck routes in and out of the Junta corridor. One group claimed to have identified a white utility vehicle spotted twice on local dashcam footage, once heading west before Gus vanished, and again speeding east just 45 minutes later. That discovery caught the attention of police. Within days, investigators confirmed they were analyzing the same footage and tracing the vehicle's movements, but they stopped short of confirming any link to Gus. Meanwhile, public frustration grew. Calls poured into talk shows demanding stronger updates. Commentators questioned whether the case had been mishandled in its first critical hours, when the search grid was still small and potential evidence could have already been lost. Even seasoned investigators admitted, the first night is everything. Once darkness falls in the Outback, it's like searching the ocean. Still, hope flickered again when a local truck driver came forward, claiming he'd seen something unusual that afternoon: a parked vehicle near a cattle fence, door open, engine running. He couldn't describe the driver, but said he didn't belong out there. For detectives, that single account reopened a crucial line of inquiry. And for the public, it became fuel for a growing storm of speculation that Gus hadn't disappeared by chance, but had been taken. After weeks of searching, dozens of interviews, and one of the most extensive rural investigations in recent memory, there are still no answers. No confirmed sightings. No recovered belongings. No conclusive evidence pointing to where little Gus Lamont went or who might have been involved. But what remains are patterns and possibilities. If Gus wandered off, experts say he couldn't have traveled more than 2 kilometers on foot before exhaustion or exposure set in. Yet searchers scoured nearly 20 times that distance. So how could they have missed him? If he was taken, it would mean someone was watching, waiting, in one of the loneliest stretches of land in South Australia. No cameras, no witnesses. Just a single chance encounter in an open desert. And then there's the newest question, the one police haven't answered publicly. What exactly was found near Dusty Creek Line? Officials called it items of significance. But to date, those items haven't been described, photographed, or released to the public. Could they hold the key to understanding what really happened that day? Or are they another dead end in a case already haunted by silence? For now, the investigation continues. Detectives say they're following active leads. Family and locals hold on to hope, fragile but still alive. And somewhere in the wide, endless Outback lies the truth. If you've made it this far, take a moment to share Gus's story, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss updates as they unfold. And tell us in the comments, what do you think really happened to Gus Lamont? Your voice keeps this story alive.